From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. After a historic win, Amor Mottley will be Barbados' first female prime minister. 52-year-old Amor Mottley from the Barbados Labour Party will be sworn in on Friday by the Governor-General. She will be the country's 8th prime minister. Mottley is a former Attorney General and a Minister of Economic Affairs and Development, the first woman to hold each of those posts. She unseats Frenda Stewart of the Democratic Labour Party, who governed for 2 consecutive terms. And in a big setback for the outgoing Prime Minister, his party failed to win a single seat. After she was declared a winner, she addressed the supporters at the party headquarters, and she promised Barbados will have a better future. Let's listen to her.
Barbados, my friends, has always prided itself on the seamless ability to be able to move from one government to another. In America, there's a long interregnum before presidents are sworn in. In our case, that is not so. We get to the task immediately. And that, for us, is good as a small nation. But as we do that, I ask you, our supporters, to recognize that there can be no time for gloating and no time for unwarranted moaning or groaning. We are one people. We are Barbadians.
According to early results, her party, the BLP, won all 30 seats, which gives it the largest majority in the House of Representatives in Barbados history. BLP's landslide victory stole seats from the traditional strongholds of the Democratic Labour Party, including St. Michael's South, which was held by current Prime Minister Frenda Stewart. Results came in exceptionally late, at nearly 4 a.m. local time, after polls closed 2 hours later than usual. And the outgoing Prime Minister conceded defeat after his party did not secure the mandate of the people. He addressed supporters at the party headquarters, saying he takes full responsibility for the DLP's performance.
Success is shared by all those who succeed and by those with whom they are associated. But when there is failure points to one man. And therefore let me unhesitatingly and unequivocally and frankly accept full responsibility for the defeat of the Democratic Labour Party in this election.
And these elections were not without irregularities. During the course of voting on Thursday, several CARICOM nationals who were granted permission to vote by the Caribbean Court of Justice were removed from the voting list. The Supreme Court held an emergency sitting granting them permission to vote. This meant that some polling stations were kept open 2 hours later than usual. Some of the ballot boxes also arrived late, pushing further delay. Candidates from the Barbados Labour Party also reported being barred from overseeing the count in some constituencies. The Chief Electoral Officer issued a statement explaining these irregularities. The EBC said the vehicles and drivers recruited for the delivery of the ballot boxes had to be redirected because of the new voters, who had to be added to the list at the last moment. The Electoral and Boundaries Commission assured the public that all necessary procedures were followed to protect the integrity of the poll. Now to Colombia's election, where presidential candidates took part in a debate just 2 days before the May 27th elections. The debate centered around electoral guarantees, the respect of the electoral results, and the peace talks between the government and the ELN. Candidates Iván Duque and Germán Vargas Lleras did not agree with Gustavo Petro's call to supporters to take to the streets to defend Sunday's results. They described this as a provocation. but left-wing candidate Petro questioned once again the legitimacy of the electoral system and asked for guarantees on Sunday.
Candidate Gustavo Petro has denounced irregularities in the registry software, the audit process, and what has been accused of being the selection of non-existent electoral jurors.
The president lied. The problem here is that the software presents alterations of algorithms and could lead to electoral fraud. European observers can monitor the process, but they do not have the expertise to make an audit of the registration software. Yesterday, the presidency of the republic deceived public opinion.
The president and the registrar rejected Petro's allegations. However, a few hours later, a video was released where a European legislator confirmed them as true.
We didn't know if there were talks underway with Colombian authorities to take this decision. It's quite unfortunate. Several parties from the European Parliament request for this observation to take place.
In the midst of a discussion about electoral guarantees, the National Electoral Council and the Council of State have taken measures to guarantee transparency in this election.
For electoral truth, it was ordered that the source code and the algorithms will be revealed. This will counter the situation.
They also highlighted the challenges that must be taken into account during the next elections.
We ask that the protocol be applied. If it is working, it shouldn't be changed, but my answer will be to choose juries randomly. That will ease my concerns.
With these allegations in mind, it's vital that the Colombian state makes significant changes that would allow citizens to vote in a free and fair way.
We have to make some institutional adjustments to electoral law. This requires a series of agreements. We have to see how the elected president will help make these adjustments to the law.
Gustavo Petro has declared that without an audit of the software, the vote would be an act against democracy.
It means that the registrar disobeyed a judicial order, and they didn't give guarantees of transparency in the elections.
After these allegations came to light, several presidential candidates have requested citizens to become electoral witnesses and protect the transparency of the presidential elections.
Still in Colombia, social organizations are speaking out against the high levels of danger that young people face at the hands of paramilitary groups.
Social and community leaders have denounced the presence of paramilitary groups in the Bolívar district of Bogotá. The groups are believed to be recruiting young people for drug trafficking.
We have been denouncing this for decades. This is an ever-growing threat to our city. Various armed groups linked to drug trafficking took over the district of Bolívar. So far this year, 34 young people have been murdered, most of them between the ages of 14 and 34.
Local communities said that the situation has been worsening for years.
There are many issues after the demobilization of self-defense organizations led to the rise of new criminal gangs. This territory is being disputed by gangs, which leads to increasing levels of violence among young people. And because of limited employment opportunities, many end up being drawn into this war.
Communities and social leaders not only face a great wave of violence, but also suffer extreme neglect at the hands of the state, who willingly turns a blind eye to local drug trafficking.
This is getting out of hand. The government owes a great debt to Ciudad Bolívar.
Without an effective answer from the state, youth leaders have found other ways to prevent drug trafficking from claiming more lives.
We try to find young people that live on the streets who are using drugs, and we bring them in. We offer art and culture, we have dance classes, communication workshops, we do sports and guide them so that they can have a better education and also better employment.
Youth unemployment in Colombia is higher than unemployment among the rest of the population by at least 7%. That means many of these youngsters have nothing to do with their time.
The first way to combat this is to create an evenly distributed wealth with better productivity, while also encouraging tax policies that decentralize wealth. Inequality is a huge issue in Colombia. We are ranked as the 8th most unequal country in the world and 2nd in Latin America.
For the inhabitants of Ciudad Bolívar, the Colombia state is directly responsible for this situation.
If
the government doesn't invest in education, these problems will continue. If the government doesn't offer work and education, people's lives will be worse than they are now. That is the root of all problems.
Local leaders know too well that despite their best efforts, a drastic change is needed. If that doesn't happen, the situation will only worsen.
And let's go back to the Barbados election, as we have a live guest now. He's the chair of the Caribbean Pan-African Network, David Comisión, who is in Barbados and has been closely watching the elections and its outcome. Hello, David.
Hello.
Hi. So to start with, are you surprised with the election results, or was this expected?
No, I'm not surprised at all. The Barbadian people have a finely developed survivalist instinct, and when they recognize that a governmental administration poses a real danger to the fundamental interests of the country, they tend to get rid of that administration. And this is precisely what happened on this occasion.
So Amor Mottley will be the country's first woman prime minister. What does that mean for the country and for its women?
Well, it's a great victory for our women. Could you imagine that the Frondel Stewart administration, one of the major planks of their election platform was to say to the Barbadian people that the country was not ready for a female prime minister. Barbados is a country in which women have long been liberated. Women hold many important positions in our national life. And in fact, Amor Mottley was once Deputy Prime Minister of Barbados. So the argument that the country was not ready for a female Prime Minister was laughable and was rejected contemptuously by the Barbadian people. So it's a great victory for Amor Mottley, and it's a great victory for the women of Barbados.
And what about outgoing Prime Minister now, Frondel Stewart, and his Democratic Labour Party? What's next for them?
Well, we have a two-party culture in Barbados, and both parties come from a labor background, rooted in the working class. But over the years, there has been a degeneration of the parties. They've moved away from their traditional base. And so what we were witnessing was a really decayed or degenerated Democratic Labour Party. The Barbados Labour Party, Ms. Mottley's party, had in the past exhibited some of that degeneration as well. But Ms. Mottley has breathed new life into the Barbados Labour Party since taking over the leadership about 4 years ago. In a sense, she took the party back to its roots. She went out among the people, engaged in a dialogue with the people, and really made an effort to remake her Barbados Labour Party. The Democratic Labour Party has shown its degeneration. The people have now dismissed it completely from power, and it will have to go through a process of rebuilding, of recapturing its original mission. But it's left to be seen who are the leaders that can emerge to do that rebuilding mission.
Indeed, a change of political arena in Barbados. Thank you very much, David, for your time. That was David Comisión from the Pan-African Network, Caribbean Pan-African Network from Barbados. Now we go to Venezuela, where President Nicolás Maduro addressed the National Constituent Assembly after he was presented with his credentials to be president for the next 6 years. His second term begins on January 10, when he will be officially sworn in. Maduro called on legislators to renew their energy and asked their help to change Venezuela for the better. Maduro also said he's ready to once again start a dialogue with all sectors of society. During his speech, he also invited international companies from Europe, Asia and the Caribbean to come to the country to forge new economic agreements. President Maduro also made a call for the unity among Venezuelan people.
Listen to the voice and the silence of the people.
Y ha pasado sin sabores.
They've been through tough times.
Con paciencia.
Patiently.
Con conciencia.
Consciously.
Que ha enfrentado dificultades de la
that
guerra.
Have faced problems related to war, economic war, electric war, political war.
So, as the number of journalists killed in Mexico increases, a group of media professionals have decided to make a documentary to tell the story of their murdered colleagues, their struggles, and the government's failure to tackle these crimes.
During the presidency of Enrique Peña Nieto, Mexico has been identified by international organizations as one of the most dangerous countries for journalists. In the documentary No se mata la verdad, the story of some of the victims of this violence is told as a way to convey conditions under which Mexican journalists live.
Many people from all across the country are committed to informing the population through their work, and despite the harsh conditions in which we find ourselves, they are still here with their investigations to show society the truth about power.
The producers of Mirar Morir, a movie on the disappearance of the 43 students in Ayotzinapa, works to expose yet another case of violence, oppression, and intimidation in Mexico.
We already had a first cut before they killed Javier, and 1 month before, they killed Miroslava. It was very difficult to make the decision to resume the work of Javier and put it into the documentary.
More than 10 journalists were murdered during the production of the documentary, including Javier Valdez, one of the main voices in the film. Through testimonies, the authors show the importance of journalism currently in Mexico.
It is necessary to exhibit what is happening. My father said that the only tool we have as citizens is to inform, to let people know what the officials are doing, what they're stealing, the injustice that they commit, because otherwise things are not going to change.
43 journalists have been murdered during the 6 years in office served by President Enrique Peña Nieto, most of them working on issues concerning corruption and relationships between the government officials and organized crime. All these cases remain yet unsolved.
In Argentina, the grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo have been nominated once again for the Nobel Peace Prize. If you still don't know about them, this is your chance to do so.
Life overcame hatred. That's what Estela de Carlotto, president of the Grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo, says despite the difficulties she faced. They couldn't defeat her in her fight of justice that has now lasted for over 40 years.
This recognition honors us, of course. In any case, we are happy to be in our country with all those who love and care for us, because the struggle continues and we do not feel alone. We are well accompanied. There is more and more solidarity, support and sympathy for the work we do.
The search for those disappeared during the military-civic dictatorship is now recognized worldwide. Today, a new chapter emerges in this long path of recovery for the 127 missing children, a new nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize.
We know the grandmothers for what they do in Argentina, but the presence and importance that the grandmothers have globally is enormous. Everything that has to do with the right to identity and international declarations of human rights, we owe it to the grandmothers. That's the main reason we have nominated them for the Nobel Peace Prize.
Truth triumphed over lies, and the grandmothers celebrate this nomination by working. Now, they are accompanied by the love of their recovered grandchildren.
In spite of the grief and horror that they went through, all they asked for was justice. I think they are an example that has transcended borders.
I think there is no better prize than to give the Nobel Peace Prize to an organization that fights for a life as symbol of truth in moments where there is denial, where the policies of human rights are falling. I think it will be of great honor for them to be recognized.
The grandmothers of Plaza de Mayo celebrate life once again, but they also know there is still a lot to do in their quest for truth, memory, and justice.
Let's take a short break, but we'll be back again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Ireland is voting on a referendum this Friday that could potentially liberalize one of the world's strictest abortion laws. Here's a look at the campaign from both sides.
Ireland's upcoming abortion referendum may be set to change the lives of the nation's women drastically. People across the country will be voting to decide whether to repeal the 8th Amendment of the Constitution, which gives equal right to life to both the fetus and mother. If there is a yes vote, the government will introduce legislation allowing abortion within 12 weeks of pregnancy. It's the first time in 35 years that a vote is taking place which could overhaul one of the world's strictest abortion laws, a decision that has deeply divided the Irish society. In the predominantly Catholic country, pro-life supporters have been adamantly campaigning that unborn babies deserve the right to life.
That we all have a right to life. Nobody would say to vote away somebody else's right to life. It's a human rights issue. The woman and the baby should have the same equal right to life.
I don't want abortion in Ireland on demand up to 12 weeks and then up to 6 months for healthy babies. It's a massacre. That's what it will be.
On the other hand, women like Amy Callahan want abortion to be legalized. The pain and suffering of this 35-year-old mother of one is still fresh from her trip to the UK last year. She was pregnant with her second child, but at 22nd weeks, the doctor said the baby has a severe brain disease. She had no option but to travel to Britain to have an abortion.
But when it's you feel like a criminal. You feel like you're doing something wrong. And you just feel so sad. I think we were just so sad and hurt by it, hurt by the whole country thinking that we were criminals.
9 Irish women leave daily for abortions in the UK, and every day 4 women import pills via the internet to induce termination, risking a 14-year jail term. It is a decisive day, which can open a new window for women who want to be in control of their bodies. And the worldwide Irish diaspora are leaving no stone unturned for this historic day. Many are rushing to Ireland from wherever they are to cast their vote.
Syrian citizens have gathered in Al-Hajar al-Aswad as government troops and security forces raise the national flag over the newly liberated South Damascus suburb. This comes days after the Syrian Arab Army reportedly concluded its 7-year-long war with the self-proclaimed Islamic State group earlier this week. Palestinian flags were also raised in an act of solidarity. North Korea said it is willing to talk with the United States at any time after President Donald Trump has called off the summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, scheduled for June 12 in Singapore. In a letter released by the White House, Trump said, quote, "It is inappropriate at this time to have this long-planned meeting." The decision comes after days of accusations and tensions between the U.S. and the North Korean administrations. However, in the letter, Trump also told Kim that, quote, "Someday I look very much forward to meeting you." North Korean Vice Foreign Minister Kim Kye-kwan said Trump's decision was extremely regrettable. The summit would have been the first time a sitting U.S. president had met a North Korean leader. During a Senate hearing, U.S. Secretary Mike Pompeo said his country had a hard time preparing the meeting as North Korea did not respond to queries during the logistics preparation of the summit. When asked about Kim, Pompeo answered that he did not think the summit's cancellation was a sign of Kim being a weak leader.
I regret the statements that the North Koreans have made over the past few days, and the fact that we've not been able to conduct the preparation between our two teams that would be necessary to have a chance for a successful summit.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lu Kang said that China hopes both the U.S. and North Korea can exercise patience and show goodwill to make the talks happen. China has publicly urged both countries to keep up the dialogue, but Trump suggested that Kim's more defiant tone in recent days actually followed a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping.
As a party that is concerned about the nuclear issue on the Korean Peninsula, we think that a meeting between the U.S. and North Korean leaders will have a pivotal role in promoting the denuclearization process. In the present situation, we really hope that the United States and North Korea can cherish the recent positive progress, exercise patience, show goodwill, and meet each other halfway.
U.S. film producer Harvey Weinstein has surrendered to authorities in New York this Friday, months after he was toppled from Hollywood's most powerful ranks by scores of women accusing him of sexual assault. He has been charged with rape and several other counts of sexual abuse. Federal prosecutors in New York started a sex crime investigation into the movie producer after more than 80 women, many of them famous actresses, accused him of sexual abuse. The allegations started an international anti-harassment movement which became famous last year with the hashtag #MeToo. And with that, we come to the end of this news brief. But as you know, this and other stories you can find on our website, telesurtv.net/English. And be sure to also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.